lot. I want to shift the focus over to Rogojin and Fishu once again, because these are the two players that finished collectively the best in this lobby. The Fishu, quite a prominent streamer. Do you know him for anything in particular?
I mean, I certainly remember his name from the early days of Constructed as well. Haven't followed him particularly recently up until this point, but was a name that I was aware of in the early days of Constructed, and it's good to see him now back making a big splash in Battlegrounds as well.
Man, I thought we'd have some time to look at the standings, but we're straight away into the next lobby. I love to see it. This time we have Dragons and Pirates Banaway.
I'm going to be honest, Gia, I am stunned. I was fully expecting like a hard 20-minute fill there before all of these players were ready to queue up again. But respect to the 8 players, knowing that this is serious business and staying in their seats ready to queue up the next lobby. Well played to everyone.
I do love that. And from Rogojin, the straight away free roll because he's Nosdormu, taking away 3 minions that technically have synergy in the Wrathweaver with the double Vulgar Homunculi, but he is definitely experienced enough to know that that's a bait, at least in this meta, where demons can easily be outscaled by elementals and dragons.
Tough decision from Silvername, but I am a hero power turn 1 gamer, so I respect this from Silvername as well. I think the dynamic might have changed because of the nerf hitting the hero power specifically, like the minion does not get as big as it was previously. But that in particular is a 1-3, so still hitting it with the hero power I think is quite valuable just to get the attack buff. But in general, I do think hero powering on turn 1 with Maev is very powerful.
It was quite interesting too that he deliberately chose to freeze the other refreshing anomaly, because we could have seen their buy 1 refreshing, play it, so you get the free refresh on the next one, and then sell that one in order to hero power the other one. It does look like that he wanted to play one of those elementals as early as now, though. For the Barov player, though, first bet online, and well, that's tough because you expect Maev to have bought more minions, but then if Sho got a single Divine Shield minion, this could end in a tie, which you don't get the benefit from Barov on.
Well, do you, though? Because, again, Maev could just hero power on turn 1. They don't necessarily always double buy in the early game, so I think that's actually even more of a difficult decision to make as to who you're betting on.
That is true. It kind of depends on what kind of tech you think people have landed on after this patch. I've personally thought that it would almost always be a buy on turn 1, but it also just depends on the quality of the minion. Like you were saying, 1 attack or 2 attacks make a big difference, but in the end, he does get the bet correctly, and that is so huge for Barov's economy. But speaking of economy, we have an Omu player and an awkward teacup.
A very awkward teacup indeed, yeah. The fact that it wasn't necessarily bought first here, maybe it's not being bought at all, maybe he's just going double dragon. No, he is just going to buff up the Glyph Guardian here, but obviously his big regret right now would be no economy minion in the first shop, no pirate, no token, no Celemental, because that makes everything wonderful if you're an Omu player. You can essentially just curve a full turn earlier without losing any power on your board in most situations if you do hit that token early just by leveling and buying a second minion on 4 gold and just following the curve from there. So the fact that he did not hit that curve means that Omu has to play a little bit more honestly here, at least for a couple of turns.
Follow up on that point. Sorry, I did make a mistake about the ban minions a while ago. We've updated it now, and it turns out it's beasts and murlocs that are banned. So actually the only token minion you can get is Celemental, and if you want to treat the deck swabby that way for economy, so it's much harder to get those blisteringly fast starts, and also to Deathwing to a certain extent is going to be a bit difficult for him to go wide and really make use of the attack buff.
It also means we will not be seeing any Khadgar lines in this lobby, which is always disappointing to me. I don't really know if any of these players are known Khadgar players. Like, it's either a thing that you do or you don't. It's not really a thing that you just bust out every now and again. But I do think it is the probably the coolest thing to watch in Battlegrounds overall. And outside of that, like, it's not just a meme strat. Like, I generally think it's powerful and it's something that people should learn how to do a lot more. I know Language Hacker recently has been forcing it just for like 2 or 3 days just so he could specifically get good at it because he understands that it's a weakness that he has in his game.
Well, Sottle, at least half of each lobby is streamers, so I want to say at least half of each lobby should be aware of how to do Khadgar, because that is definitely one that gets the viewers going.
That's true.
But now, take a look at Fritorous' second shot. Definitely has to make up for last game, and now he has Toki, which is another minion with a 1-cost hero power, but not necessarily the curve you might expect.
No, you do have a lot of options with Toki, just because you can choose to stay behind the curve a tiny bit if you want to. There's also the opportunity here to do what Fritris is doing, which is the curve I favor myself, which is to push and roll immediately on 7 golds. This is the normal turn he would level, but by getting the discounts from the swabbies, it's so huge because he's able to just roll into a Tavern 4 minion immediately. Normally, you might just have to sell and buy here, or just freeze the minion, and then potentially buy a Tavern 4, roll with your hero power again, and buy another Tavern 4 on the following turn. But since he's played the Swabbies this game, he essentially just gets a free Tavern 4 minion a turn early, as if he tripled into it here, essentially, on this turn.
And it's a great one, too. Bolvar is one of those you can take even if you don't necessarily have that much support for it, because it's just good in the mid-game. But he was also given a Bronze Warden in that shop, so it's no surprise that he'd be freezing it there. He did, however, hold the Bolvar because he was going to face Sho, his partner. We do have XQN, winner of last lobby, now on Elise, which is a hero that I tend to think, when I looked at the hero power first, that didn't seem very strong, but some people favor it for the consistency.
Yeah, there's one thing that a lot of players do really enjoy about Elise, myself included, is that you never really whiff on your Tavern 2 shop with Elise, which is specifically one of the most frustrating things in the game. If you feel like you're getting set up for a very bad game when you just get offered garbage in your Tavern 2 shop. Speaking of which, nice goal, by the way, that was insane.
Yeah.
But with Elise, because you have the recruitment map specifically, you can almost always get a fairly premium Tavern 2 and at least just be set up to be competitive through the early game.
I also favor Sindragosa for that reason, but looking at Fishu here, he does have the opportunity once again to level a turn before the normal curve, because as Omu, you have the economy for it. However, his board isn't necessarily that strong. It looks like for now he's trying to leverage the Khadgar effect with these Death Rattles to give himself more minions, and to be fair, that's got to be pretty strong against a Deathwing coming up.
Yeah, I think specifically against Deathwing, he's not in that bad a shape, right? He would have loved to have seen that Bronze Warden roll earlier and picked it up perhaps instead of this Crackling Elemental. But with having Khadgar with a couple of Death Rattles available and the board space to leverage it, you would imagine that Deathwing has a better board for being Deathwing. But actually, as we switch to Sho, he really doesn't. Like, Sho is not taking advantage of the Deathwing aspect as you would expect a player to be doing in this situation.
That's right. In the early turns, you generally, as Deathwing, just pick everything with Divine Shield, Reborn, Death Rattle, no matter how small they are, because they stack with Deathwing. And a lot of the times, in order to predict how a fight goes, you can just count how many minions do they have on board.
Yep.
To be fair, Sho doesn't have quite so many activations, but he did freeze a trip. Oh, more Khadgar! Oh, Thottle, you said we wouldn't see any Khadgar shenanigans this lobby. What happened?
I know. What on earth am I talking about? Yeah.
But Sho did freeze the Lieutenant there, so he can get a triple into a 5-drop, because I assume he'll be leveling next turn. The common strategies you see for players to freeze their triple activators for turns on end, just to be able to get the triple on a Tavern tier that they feel is the biggest power spike.
And perfect timing. Yeah, we come back to Silvername, getting the payoff for that play that we saw him making on turn 1 as well. Hero powering the first refreshing anomaly and then freezing for the second one for the purchase. He now gets the triple on it, and as I was mentioning, because you get your triples so cheaply, you can very often make this play specifically as Maev, where you just got a triple for free that turn, having invested the gold on a previous turn. So that enables you to just spend the whole turn pressing the level button and power spiking into the absolute dream minion here. That's a 9 gold Kalikos for Silvername, and he will be looking to scale that up as quickly as possible now.
Huge. You can already see him freezing for the Menagerie Jug in order to get a guaranteed battle cry, and he does have a pretty menagerie-looking board at the moment. Elemental, Dragon, and Mech all represented. I assume the Micro Mummy might be leaving soon in order to guarantee the buff on the bigger minion. Needs Old Shredder. For now, Silvername's board doesn't even look all that weak for 9 gold. A lot of the time, when you freeze that long to hit a spike on a 6-drop, the rest of your board looks pretty fragile, but it looks like he has the best of both worlds here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing with early Kalikos that people don't necessarily talk about, is it's a freaking 4-12, right? Like, when you discover early Kalikos, normally a 4-12 is pretty insane against most of the sizes of minions that your opponent have. Gia got very excited about the opportunity for some Pagel value, but it was immediately snatched away from him.
I'm very upset. You had a very good point, Otto, but Pagel could give you another Kalikos if he gets to attack. Have you ever golden a Pagel? It just
I
feels
have.
good.
It does feel good, I agree. But what doesn't feel good is the 11 damage that you just took to the player who'd spiked a Calicos on turn 9, on 9 gold even. And let's not forget, Silvername has 2 0-mana rolls banked as well from that golden refreshing anomaly that he played on the previous turn to go digging for some of those tier 5 dragons, find a Razor Gore, find Divine Shield dragons, look for really powerful minions to start scaling with that Calicos.
Goddammit is just winning these Barov rolls. Already the fact that he is on tier 5 this early with a tripled Deflecto bot into the Foe Reaper, I assume, and still has coins to spare means that he's gotten a lot of these guesses right. And that's an Annoyo module that he can slap on his Foe Reaper so that it can be a bit more durable. And he's also picked up the Light Fang to continuously buff the board.
Yeah, and when you were talking about how Rafarm maybe plays into this teamwork aspect a little bit, I think Rafarm might be the old meta in terms of the most powerful hero, because I was thinking about Barov the whole time, because every time you would fight your teammate with Rafarm, you're just as likely to be able to bet on your teammate as Barov, and that gives you so much extra information as to who is going to win or lose that fight, and can print you so much money if you're able to get it right more consistently.
Right. They can give you information on everybody that they've faced so far on top of who you've faced. So yep. Barov definitely is a lot stronger in this type of format and also in quad queues. For the Nosdarbo player Rogojin, though, he's finally hit the Lil Rag. He has the Gentle Genie, just needs to survive a little bit longer so you can get all the value off of it. The Divine Shields are looking a bit scary, but he does have some stats on his taunt minions.
Yeah, that's true. Like, he does have him heavily covered in terms of stats, but obviously all of these minions basically have 2 attacks for the price of 1 on Rogojin's side, and these Bolvars are going to scale up very, very quickly indeed. It's looking like he might just be in a little bit of trouble here overall, depending on whether he can snipe the dragon before it gets out of range of bigger attacks. He really, really wants to live now with that Amalgadon online.
Oh, it was such a big deal that he was able to snipe the dragon at the last hit, but these Bolvars will be cutting Rogojin's dreams short, and that is the worst feeling. You have the Lil Rag, you got the value out of your Genie, but you die that very same turn. I think Fritterus might have done the whole lobby a favor in removing Rogojin because he was about to get nuts out of control.
Yeah, someone's going to need to do the lobby a favor and give Silvername the same treatment, though, because he, to me, is the one threatening to really go nuts with that Calicos scaling, backed up by Maev. I mean, honestly, name a more iconic duo, right? Like, Maev and early Calicos, like, that's just what you do when you get that hero.
Show, however, an opportunity for Lil Rag as well. He doesn't necessarily have elemental synergy, but the good thing about Lil Rag is that elemental is the activator, but any minion type is the benefitter.
That's true. Now, Khadgar in play again for show and does have that upgraded egg, so that's a couple of 16/16s being summoned out here as long as the board space is available, which it will most likely be. This is the importance of just having a taunt minion, at least in your composition. I think that's one of the mistakes that some lower MMR players will make, is they just don't value having taunt for the sake of having taunt, because just guaranteeing where your opponent's first attack will go allows Sho so much more freedom to be able to set up the left-hand side of his board so cleanly.
That's right. Even Righteous Protector, that little 1-drop, can make its way into late-game comps such as Death Rattle Beast just because it's able to force an attack, or even 2, the fact that it has the bubble on it. He also has this Pagel set up to try and give him value, but unfortunately the taunts on the other side both have Divine Shield, so he won't be getting additional value from that. I do expect that the Pagel is going to be replaced by Lil Rag though.
Yes, and not only did they have Divine Shield, they were also the worst possible size, right in that sweet spot for the Fishu, where they killed the Pagel, but they didn't kill the egg. So the egg actually picking up a value trade here is arguably bad, not anymore though, because the snipe on the left means that the 2 16/16s do still summon before the Khadgar gets to attack.
Big deal. I don't think it's going to make this a win for Sho necessarily, unless he gets all of the... okay. Too late, the Draconid Enforcers have gotten bigger, but a tie is a win in this circumstance where Sho has the Little Rags, he has scaling potential, but he just needs time.
What is happening here, Gia? This is a very scuffed looking elemental board right now.
It looks like it's in desperate need of a Nomi. He's just using Party Elemental as budget Lil Rag.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it's worth it to take the Arcane Assistant. It essentially feels like a demon board, and you would take that as the 5/4 in this situation, but that doesn't necessarily win lobbies.
It's true, but like I'm struggling even really to see where XQN is going with this comp. Like he might just feel that he's on a pretty low tier hero here and didn't get a good choice. So he's just scrapping, right? Like you see he's still on tier 4 here, which is kind of late in the current metagame to still be on Tavern 4. So he might just honestly be scrapping for position, just trying to find like a 4th, 5th, 6th place finish because he was not happy with his hero choices.
I do like that he went for the level here and the recruitment map. I think the thing that could have maybe helped him bridge the gap is Baron Rivendare if he discovered that on the Tavern 5.
Yeah.
The Spawn of N'Zoth could have given him a bit more stats, and the fact that he has the Genie could give him the value later on, but it looks like this is a little bit too much on the other side, especially because of the Divine Shields and even the Selfless Hero.
Yeah, the Divine Shields are nuts, but also just these first 3 or 4 attacks, just all value trades for the Millhouse here as well, which is insane. That's about the worst possible outcome that can come off the Genie, though, just in terms of stats immediately in the fight. Obviously, in terms of money for Millhouse, that's fantastic. He'll take that.
Yeah, I think just the fact that SQN holds on another turn and is now on Tavern 5 is a very big deal.
Yep.
He can try and leverage these Tavern Tempests to get him those triples, because I do believe he ended the turn with the double Tavern Tempest and the double Arcane Assistant.
That's right. He could find himself a Bran there in his Tavern 5 shops. That could potentially be huge for him with those Tavern Tempests as well. But speaking of Bran, there's that Bran-Mex combination that we were talking about in the previous lobby as well. And Dummett even has an Amalgadon in his hand, just trying to look for something else to potentially get value out of it. Now double Amalgadon. This is a huge turn for Dummett.
It really is. Honestly, it's just hard to think about what he wants to remove because he's obviously invested so much in these mechs, but I think he has enough money and health to play with to make a full transition to elementals if he just hits one of these more impactful 6 drops like a Lil Rag, because we do know mechs are quite strong in the mid game, but if he doesn't hit more attack buffs on these, they can maybe get outpaced by the dragons on the other side.
Coins actually being spent on rolls here, which is not something you see particularly often, but Dummett is really digging for that potential Annoyer module, but while he has the board space available, right? Like, he's about to board lock himself again, potentially at the end of this turn, so he felt secure enough to say, you know what? I will take these rolls. I'll actually coin roll, which is something very strange to do, just to look for that Annoyer module while I have the board space.
He also has potential to do another thing strange, which is triple the Amalgadon, because there are no Murlocs in the lobby, so he has no potential of hitting Toxfin to hit on this non-poison Divine Shield one. And with their powers combined, you can get the poison and Divine Shield on the same minion.
Yes. Normally you do everything in your power to avoid that. Like, you'll actually sell your Genie so your Genie doesn't drop you another Amalgadon. You won't play Murazond against a person who had an Amalgadon on their board. So you do avoid tripling Amalgadon. But in this situation, I agree. I think it could actually be very beneficial for Dummett to be able to triple the Amalgadon here.
Casual 31 damage, Elise obliterated out of existence, and that's just the runaway advantage you can get with Barrock if you get all those early guesses right, give you the gold to level up early and have easy access, or rather early access to all of the premium minions. Toki, though, also going to deal lethal damage to Bootylicious' Millhouse, which is quite unfortunate because that's another 7th place finish for Booty.
It is, and once again he hit the Elemental, so I'm sure he was doing well in terms of economy, but just was not able to find the stats to compete with this this board state that we've had from multiple other players.
Sorry, that was 5th place. A bunch of people died there at the same time. XQN, the leader of last lobby, falling down to 7th, and both the Fishu and Rogojin, who were 2nd and 3rd last lobby, are in 6th and 8th. So it already feels like things are starting to equalize, even though we don't know the order of the top 4 quite yet.
Yeah, and this is huge for Green Team and White Team here, actually, because all 4 players who are remaining are from just those 2 teams. All of Team Yellow, XQN and Bootylicious, have been eliminated, as well as you said, Fishu and Rogojin. So big swing here towards the Team White and Team Green players.
right? Just dragon things, very simple, hitting a lot of the battle cries. What Fritterus wants to really close out and be the cherry on top is maybe an Anoia module to start on the Amalgadon, because sometimes you can get Nadina to double up if your one taunt minion is the one with Divine Shield, and possibly find a second Nadina later on.
Keep up the momentum, friend.
He's going to be going into Dummit here, as we just saw, but still... Oh, he did find! It looks like during that turn we left him, he found the Anoia module for that Poisonous Amalgadon, which obviously was the best solution. We were talking about tripling, which I think would be a consolation prize, but actually picking up the Anoia module there to create the Divine Shield Poisonous minion is huge. As Gia was saying, no opportunity to do that on the other Amalgadon because there are no Murlocs in the lobby to pick up the Toxfin. Still increased his power so much.
That little plant taking down the Divine Shield on the poisoned Amalgadon was so huge. It made all the difference in this lobby now, because Fritterus is able to survive with 2 big dragons. And while Goddammit is nowhere near dying, he definitely has to think about how he's going to scale later on. And I don't think there's too much of a problem with that, because he does have Fran.
There's Show getting absolutely obliterated. 26 damage taken from Silvername, and yes, you can see how things have progressed from this point. Silvername, board full of giant dragons. He's even hoarding a golden Bran at this point, which is yet another advantage of Maiev. You can go for extremely greedy triples that you normally would not do with other heroes, because it just costs you that 1 gold to be able to freeze it. So,
and I'm really interested in using the Stasis Elemental to give you maybe rolls at finding Amalgadon, but it's just less efficient than Tavern Tempest. So, do you think that's worth it?
It's a good question, actually. Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but he did end up going for it indeed.
It's also just awkward about the space he has, because as Maiev, whenever you use your hero power to make a minion dormant, it does still take up a space. So, as Maiev, in Tavern 6, you don't also necessarily want to have 2 minions hero powered at any given point, because you'll be taking up 1 board space.
Yeah, and at that point, you've almost wasted a large amount of the gold that you spent going to 6, because that's one of your big advantages, is the extra minion that appears in each shop. It's not necessarily just having access to the Tavern 6 minions, it's the just increased likelihood of hitting everything because of the increased size of the shop.
I do love seeing teammate positioning. Nadina last! I don't want my shields. They're trying their best to tie each other, because again, Silvername, Goddammit are teammates on the green team. They're the ones that a lot of the other Russian-speaking players said that they're most scared of. And they're definitely the 2 players that seem the most confident going into this game.
Absolutely, yeah. Divine Shield hits for Divine Shield on the Poison, which I think is the best possible outcome for Silvername, and I think might just tilt this fight into dealing a little bit more damage to Dummit than he might have liked, because this is the potential downside of putting the Nadina last, right? That's a 6 drop that's now just going to be alive on the board at the end of the fight.
But it very well could have been like 3 2 drops that stayed alive before if you put Nadina in front, but oh my goodness, leaving him alive at 1.
What we say there, Gia, is that was executed to perfection. That's all they needed to do, was just both survive that fight, and they absolutely did it. And now Silvername will have the privilege of most likely being able to eliminate Fritterus here and securing the 1-2 for him and his teammate, because Dummit has the luxury of the ghost fight.
And dragons are just so powerful in a lobby with Murlocs, where it's so difficult to get Poison and Divine Shield consistently on your Amalgadons.
This is my realm. That's what I would have picked.
Dummit at this point just largely doing whatever here. He switches over to the double Lil Rag setup and figures that he has a couple of turns to scale here. But honestly, as long as Dummit trusts Silvername to do the job here and knock out Fritterus, they will have done their job. It doesn't really matter which one of them ends up in first and second position. That will just kind of be a friendly little showdown between the 2 of them at the end. But if they can secure the first, second, that is the best possible result for these 2 players.
I mean, Collins and I were talking about it during practice, that if it's the same people on a team in first and second, and they're facing off just to decide who's first, you might see somebody just sell their entire board. But oh my goodness, this Toki is just a little gold short of being able to triple the Draconids and try to find another Nadina.
And it's actually slightly closer than I was giving it credit for. Silvername having the Divine Shield already on his Amalgadon might be a big kicker, and if this rolls Divine Shield Poison now as well, which it did, that's a huge boost as well. But I did not give Friturus and Toki enough credit here for the size of the giant dragons they had themselves. But that extra roll on the Amalgadon at the end with the Divine Shield Poison is absolutely massive.
Make all the difference here. The fact that Nadina stayed up for Silvername is also a big deal. I don't see Toki surviving this.
And then got absolutely smoked by the Wind Fury on that Amalgadon as well. Dodged the Divine Shields to perfection. That is going to deliver, what, 21 damage at this point through, and that is going to be the 1 and 2 for Dummett and Silvername in our second lobby. Huge performance, best possible performance from Team Green this round.
Extremely impressive. I'm just curious to see what Dummett's going to do. Is it going to be sell the whole board or call it a fair fight and see who actually deserves to be first here? Because he does have 32 points of health in terms of a difference to overcome.
Yeah, and if you look at the two players right now, they're clearly discussing what is the most entertaining thing to do in this scenario. Generally, if I want to give up, I will spend 10 gold on rolling for the objectively funniest minion to leave solo on my board, and then just leave that one minion at the end. But we'll see what Dummett ends up doing here, because he might still choose to fight this out.
He has so much money. Just roll them all and look for a Pagel, the solo Pagel. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, both players smiling. They know the job is done. But honestly, Dummett's board is actually pretty huge in itself at this point. That one turn of scaling he took out to switch to the double Lil Rag has actually boosted up his stats enormously. But again, that second Divine Shield Amalgam has just ended up being so huge for Silvername in terms of breaking these ties.
They have largely similar boards, strangely enough. And
yeah,
just the fact that Nadina goes on Amalgadons means that it's not necessarily a dragon-only type of minion. Goddammit betting on Silvername, which is the right thing to do, because if he loses here, then it's just over. If Silvername wins, it might not be lethal, and then Goddammit has more money to work with.
No, other way around. Silvername has 33 health, Dummett has 1. So he just bet on himself to lose, in which case...
Oh wait, I thought he bet on Silvername. Wait.
Yeah, he bet on Silvername, exactly.
Silvername
sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I just confused myself. Supposed to bet on himself if he was trying to stay alive longer.
Yeah, you were trying to make a real point, but your mistake there is not realizing that Dummett was just trolling and there was no reality behind what he was doing.
Clearly, I don't watch enough streams.
Yeah. Just not big enough. Silvername absolutely off the back of the nerfed Maiev, still doing what Maiev does, hitting those early triples, hitting that early Calicos, scaling way out of reach of the rest of the lobby. But that last fight was merely a formality, and the teammates of Dummett and Silvername are going to take the fabled 1 and 2 finish in our second lobby, Chia.
That is huge, and purely because the two top performers outside of first place last lobby did finish 6th and 8th. I feel like that would put them in roughly equal positioning. We would have to also tally up the results from a previous lobby to really find out, but I do think it's quite close between green and purple right now. And honestly, just the fact that the slots from last lobby and this one were kind of reversed means that it could have been a lot closer.
And there is confirmation of what that means. Just that insane performance means that Green, Silvername, and Dummett have been able to stretch out a small lead. Remember, this is the team that not only when we asked them themselves said we're not scared of anyone, we're the team to watch, but also the most common names that came up when we asked other players who they were scared of in this tournament. They were really picking this as one of the teams. So far, just through 2 lobbies, long way to go still, but Green is just starting to stretch out a little bit of a lead for themselves.
It is true, but it's crucial to note that even though the other 3 teams are all around the same mark, even if you're the bottom place team right now, 12 points, that is just 1 first place away from trying to even out the score on the other side. Of course, you need to consider how the top leading team so far will be doing in the next few lobbies, and you're hoping that they'll fall behind, but the fact that we still have 6 lobbies today means that anybody could pull ahead. Any closing thoughts about those first 2 lobbies you watched, Otto? It was so fast.
It was, yeah. It feels like it does go at an incredibly fast pace, especially when there's so many players to follow. But I do also think it's crucial here to just remember the long-term game plan here for these teams, which is you don't necessarily need to win today, right? Like you just need to finish within the top 2 teams, and then you will be progressing through to Sunday where it's all on the line yet again. So as you were saying about those teams who are now congested towards the bottom with Green out with a slight lead, it does mean that, they are basically in second place, all of them right now, functionally tied behind Silvername and Dummit. So still absolutely everything to play for all of these teams, even with so many lobbies still left to conclude throughout the day.
Right. I definitely enjoyed seeing Maiev, especially proving that she's still very usable despite the nerf. We'll see if the same holds true for Jandis and Rag. I don't believe we've seen a Jandis in a lobby just yet, but I'm also personally excited to maybe see Shanvala get some love later on. But we'll see how the rest of the day goes, because for now we're going to go to a short break. Don't go anywhere. When we're back, it's going to be the third lobby.